New Jersey. To most, it's the land of diners, turnpikes, and suburban dreams. It's the Garden State. But if you pull back the curtain of those manicured lawns, if you venture just a little too far into the shadows of the Pine Barrens or down the silent streets of Westfield, you'll find that the soil here holds secrets. Secrets that don't just stay buried, they scream. Between 2015 and 2025, a series of events unfolded in New Jersey that defied logic and shattered the sense of security for millions. We aren't talking about ghosts or urban legends tonight. We're talking about haunted reality. Stories where the monster wasn't under the bed but living right next door, or even sharing the same last name. Tonight, we count down the 5 most disturbing and horrific events to strike New Jersey in the last decade. Lock your doors, dim the lights, and let's begin. Story 1. The Betrayal at Colt's Neck. November 20th, 2018. It was supposed to be the start of a quiet Thanksgiving week in Colt's Neck, one of the wealthiest enclaves in the state. Imagine a sprawling $1.5 million mansion, a symbol of the American dream. Keith Canero, a successful tech executive, lived there with his wife Jennifer and their 2 beautiful children, Jesse and Sophia. But at 5:00 a.m., the dream was incinerated. A neighbor reported smoke. By the time the fire department arrived, the mansion was a towering inferno. But it wasn't the fire that stopped the first responders in their tracks. It was what they found on the front lawn. Keith Canero lay there, shot multiple times in the head and back. He hadn't lost his life in the fire. He had been executed. As the flames were brought under control, the horror grew. Inside the charred remains of the home, investigators found Jennifer, Jesse, and Sophia. They hadn't just died from the smoke. They had been stabbed repeatedly before the house was set ablaze. On Reddit, local users in the Monmouth County subreddits were frantic. Who could do this to a whole family? They asked. Is there a hitman on the loose? The reality was much more disturbing. While the Colt's Neck mansion was burning, another fire was reported 10 miles away in Ocean Township. It was the home of Paul Canero, Keith's own brother and business partner. Paul claimed his house had been targeted too. He told police he was a victim. But investigators noticed something. Paul had used gasoline to start the fire at his own home, while his wife and daughters were inside. Why? To create a rouse. To make it look like the entire Canero family was being hunted by a mysterious enemy. In reality, Paul was the hunter. He had allegedly stolen hundreds of thousands of dollars from their shared business. Keith had found out. Keith was going to confront him. So Paul drove to his brother's house in the dead of night, executed his best friend and brother, and then, in an act of pure, unadulterated evil, murdered his sister-in-law and his young niece and nephew to leave no witnesses. This story serves as a chilling reminder. Sometimes the person you trust most, the one who shares your blood, is the one hiding the sharpest knife. Story 2. The Digital Hunter. In the fall of 2016, a shadow fell over Essex County. Young women were vanishing. Robin West, Joanne Brown, and then the case that broke the mystery wide open. Sarah Butler, a 20-year-old college student home for Thanksgiving break. Sarah was bright, loved by her community, and active on social media. When she disappeared, her family didn't just sit back. They became the detectives the world needed. They managed to get into Sarah's social media accounts. They found a pattern, a man she had been talking to, a man who seemed off. On Reddit's true crime forums, users began tracking the details as they emerged. They realized this wasn't a one-off tragedy. This was the work of a predator who knew how to use the digital age to his advantage. Sarah's friends and family did something incredible. They created a fake profile. They posed as a young woman looking for a date. They baited the hook, and he bit. His name was Kala Wheeler Weaver. He was only 20 years old, but he was already a seasoned monster. When he showed up for the date Sarah's family had arranged, he was met by the police. During the trial, the details were horrific. He didn't just kill these women. He practiced a signature of cruelty, strangling them and, in one case, setting a body on fire in an abandoned house. He believed he was choosing victims the world wouldn't miss. He was wrong. Wheeler Weaver was sentenced to 160 years in prison in 2021. This case is taught now as a lesson in digital vigilance. It shows us that while technology connects us, it also provides a mask for those who want to tear us apart. If not for a family's courage to dive into the digital abyss, how many more women would have vanished into the Jersey night? Story 3. The Watcher of 657 Boulevard. If you live in New Jersey, you know the name The Watcher. But the true story is far more disturbing than any Netflix dramatization. In 2014, the Broaddus family bought their dream home in Westfield, 657 Boulevard. A beautiful six-bedroom colonial. But before they even moved in, the first letter arrived. "Dearest new neighbor," it began. 657 Boulevard has been the subject of my family for decades now. I have been put in charge of watching and waiting for its second coming. The letters grew more menacing. The writer claimed to be the Watcher, a third-generation guardian of the house. He asked about the young blood the family was bringing, referring to their children. He asked if they had found what was in the walls. The family was terrified. They went to the police. They went to the neighbors. No one knew anything. Suspicion tore the neighborhood apart. On Reddit, the community was divided. Some believed the family was faking it for insurance. Others were convinced a local was living in the crawl spaces. The most horrific part wasn't a physical attack. It was the psychological erosion. For 5 years, the Broaddus family couldn't live in the house. They couldn't sell it because the story had gone viral. They were paying a mortgage on a house that felt like a prison. In 2019, the saga finally ended. They sold the house at a massive loss, over $400,000. The Watcher was never caught. The identity remains a mystery to this day. Imagine that. Somewhere in that quiet, wealthy neighborhood, someone is still there. Someone who knows the layout of every room. Someone who is still watching. This story reminds us that horror doesn't always need a weapon. Sometimes, a pen and a secret are enough to destroy a life. Story 4. The Jersey City Sea. December 10, 2019. A Tuesday afternoon in Jersey City. Detective Joseph Seals, a veteran officer and father of 5, approached a stolen U-Haul van in a cemetery. He was a hero known for getting guns off the streets. But as he approached the van, the occupants opened fire. Detective Seals was killed instantly. The two suspects, David Anderson and Francine Graham, didn't stop there. They drove the van to a kosher supermarket in the Greenville section of the city. What followed was a 3-hour gun battle that sounded like a war zone. The attackers were armed with high-powered rifles and had a live pipe bomb in their vehicle. They specifically targeted the market because of who was inside. By the end of the day, 6 people were dead. The detective, the 2 attackers, and 3 innocent people inside the store, the owner, an employee, and a customer. The investigation revealed that the attackers were part of a radicalized domestic terror movement. They had ballistic panels in their van. They were prepared for a long-term siege. This event shook New Jersey to its core. It showed how quickly hate can turn a neighborhood grocery store into a place of slaughter. For those of us watching the news that day, the footage of students being evacuated from nearby schools while gunfire echoed in the background is a trauma that won't soon fade. It's a stark lesson in the reality of domestic extremism and the bravery of those who run toward the sound of the guns. Story 5. The Mystery of Eunice Dwumfer. Our final story is one that is still fresh, still raw, and still profoundly disturbing. February 1st, 2023. Sayreville, New Jersey. Eunice Dwumfer, a 30-year-old borough councilwoman and a devoted mother, was driving her white SUV toward her home. As she pulled into her complex, a figure emerged from the shadows. Multiple shots were fired through the window. Eunice's car rolled down the hill, crashing into parked vehicles. She was dead before it stopped. For months, the state was in a panic. Was this a political assassination? Was it a hate crime? The killer had vanished into the night, leaving no shell casings and no clear motive. The Reddit community in New Jersey was on high alert. Dashcam footage from neighbors was analyzed by thousands of amateur sleuths. People were afraid to walk their dogs in safe, suburban neighborhoods. Finally, in May 2023, an arrest was made. Rashid Ali Bynum. He was a man Eunice knew from her church circles in Virginia. The motive? It appeared to be a mix of personal vendetta and obsession, though the full details of the psychological break remain chilling. A public servant, a woman dedicated to her community and her faith, was hunted down at her own doorstep by someone she had once tried to help. It's the ultimate haunted reality. You can do everything right. You can serve your community. You can be a light in the world. And yet, the darkness can still find you in your own driveway. 5 stories, 5 different types of horror. From the betrayal of a brother in Colt's Neck to the digital traps of a serial killer in Newark. From the psychological warfare of the Watcher to the domestic terror in Jersey City and the tragic execution in Sayreville. New Jersey is a place of incredible beauty and community. But these events from 2015 to 2025 remind us that safety is often an illusion. They teach us to be aware of our surroundings, to trust our instincts, and to realize that haunted doesn't mean ghosts. It means the weight of what humans are capable of doing to one another. Keep your eyes open, New Jersey. You never know who's watching. I'm your narrator for Haunted Reality Stories. If you found these cases as disturbing as I did, hit that like button and subscribe. We tell the stories the world wants to forget. Stay safe out there, because reality is the scariest story of all.